Hey everybody, Jack here, and before we get started on today's episode, I just want to let you know that we're going to start up work on merchandise. That's right, if our fans are interested, you can own a piece of BigJackFilms merchandise, starting with pins of our logo, our King Kong poster, and some fan art, as well as selling VHS copies of our remake of King Kong. We're just starting up manufacturing, but we'll let you know when our official merchandise will be launched on Etsy.com. We got more merchandise planned, including posters and t-shirts, but we're going to start with a few little items for your enjoyment. But if that doesn't satisfy you, you can always support us on Patreon. Just $1 or more will get you early access to all of our content, as well as other special features. On top of that, if you donate $5 a month, you'll be able to request an opening night review of whatever movie you want, and you'll get to hear me and maybe a few friends talk about said movie. All the links will be in the description down below. Also, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. Hell, you can even hit that notification bell to get updates and announcements on our latest videos. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the show. Now with that said, to the Big Jack Cave! Why did I think there was a secret passageway behind this bloody shelf? Just get to the disclaimer! The following is a fan-based video review under fair use. Batman the Movie is owned by 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers Pictures, DC Comics, Leslie H. Martinson, Lorenzo Simple Jr., and William Dozier. Please support the official release. Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another review. You know, it's hard to believe how much television has evolved since its early conception and first success in the 1950s. While its origins are as old as the motion picture camera, it didn't take long in the early days for television to be a staple in households all over the world, mostly starting off in the early 1950s in the mainstream. And much like the weekend serials in the cinema, one of the first big successful series was Walt Disney's adaptation of Johnston McCulley's Zorro, starring Guy Williams in the leading role. In a way, Zorro was the first on-screen hero for television, as Douglas Fairbanks was in the Roaring '20s of the silent era. But again, much like the comics, while Zorro was a huge success in the 50s, the 60s gave birth to Zorro's successor, who was inspired by the masked hero on the night of his parents' tragic murder. That, of course, was the Fox smash hit TV series simply known as Batman. Starring the iconic dynamic duo of Adam West and Burt Ward, the 1966 Batman series made the Caped Crusader a national icon, from comic book hero to the live-action screen. Lasting for 4 seasons with an all-star cast of guest star villains and introducing the world to some of Batman's greatest foes, Batgirl, and of course that classic theme song, show, despite some bumps in the road decades later, has become one of the greatest adaptations of The Dark Knight for children of all ages, myself included. In fact, the show was one of my first introductions to the character, with reruns of the show on the Space Channel every afternoon at 5:30 with my dad. And with a show so successful at the time, it's obvious that it got the attention of Hollywood. And given the show was produced by 20th Century Fox, the first outing of the dynamic duo on the big screen came the same year as the classic TV series. So, let's dive into the 1966 film simply known as Batman the Movie. Taking place after around season 1, the film is pretty much a big screen adaptation of the episodic series with Bruce Wayne and his youthful ward, Dick Grayson, played respectively by Adam West and Burt Ward, of course, receiving a call from help from a yacht approaching Gotham City. Entering the Batcave, they take on their crime-fighting duties as Batman and Robin to the rescue call from the yacht. Upon flying in from the Batcopter, they are stunned to see the massive ship disappear without a trace, and Batman is ambushed by an exploding shark, who he disarms with shark repellent bat spray.
Fire, you son of a...
What don't you have in that belt?
Patience. For harlequin hoodlums like yourself.
Upon returning to police headquarters with Commissioner Gordon, played by Neil Hamilton, and his bumbling partner, Chief O'Hara, played by Stafford Repp, they discover the yacht and the shark were a plot by a group of some of the Dark Knight's greatest foes, with the Joker, played by Cesar Romero, the Penguin, played by Burgess Meredith, the Riddler, played by Frank Gorshin, and Catwoman, played by Lee Merriweather, who have formed the United Underworld to, you guessed it, take over the world.
Of course!
Filled with daring adventures, fun fancy action scenes, and some cheeky romance, it's up to Batman and Robin to stop the United Underworld's plans for global domination and save their home of Gotham City in their first feature-length motion picture. So you might be thinking, unlike today's darker takes on the characters, that for the first Batman movie, it sounds kinda childish, cheesy, and downright terrible. But to be honest, despite it being a movie based on the TV show, it actually sticks to that formula. And quite frankly, I freaking love it! Yeah, as much as I love Batman being a much darker property, the 1966 movie is honestly a lot of fun to look back on, and has some charm and fun put into making it. On top of that, for first-time Batman fans, most notably young children, this movie is a good place to start off. It is quite literally a comic book movie, both in its property and comedic tone, filled with panel-like cinematography, over-the-top action and adventure, and not to mention a charming cast. Adam West as Batman, what can I say that hasn't been said? For many fans, including myself, he really was Batman. Yes, later incarnations like Michael Keaton and so on, which trust me, we'll talk about sometime down the road, have stuck to much more of the deeper dark roots of the original source material. There's no denying that Adam West made Batman the worldwide icon we see today, and to be honest, his personality as both an actor and person in real life, he honestly still comes off as an intelligent and kind Bruce Wayne that always looks to do the right thing. And in that sense, he was and still is the real-hearted personality of Batman. And in this movie, he still carries on all the traits up to 11. He can be kind, charming, and even a little tempered as Bruce Wayne. And as Batman, he kicks ass, gives a great sense of enthusiasm, and the wit of the world's greatest detective. And it's honestly still sad that he left us a few years ago. I was lucky enough to meet him a year before his death at Fan Expo, along with Burt Ward, who together were very kind, and still carried the traits of their 50-year-old characters, and I'll always be grateful for that chance to meet my childhood heroes.
You grace us with your presence.
And speaking of youthful heroes, we can't forget about Robin. Like most have said, love him or hate him, Robin is as compatible with Batman as Watson is to Sherlock Holmes. So much so that it's been over 20 years since we last saw Robin on the big screen, and honestly, I'd love to see the boy wonder in another theatrical film down the line.
Where's Batman? Fuck Batman.
Well, obviously not that way. And as for Burt Ward in the role, he's as awesome as Batman, honestly. Yeah, sure, his holy puns are cheesy and can be at times cringeworthy.
Holy sardine! Holy Merlin the Magician! Holy Long John Silver! Holy Glowpot! Holy Polaris! Holy Halloween! Holy Heart Failure! Holy Costume Party! Holy Hallucination! Holy Horseshoe! Holy Captain Nemo!
Holy Rusted Metal Batman!
Hey, jumping ahead there, that doesn't count!
Oh.
But Burt Ward, much like Adam West, made Robin as much of an icon following Batman through the thick and thins of danger and even holding his own against the villains.
Holy Great Scott!
Which in this film, the villains are an all-star guest list, as they are in the series. Starting off with the Penguin, the leader of the United Underworld, gives a commanding and strategical set of manners, coming off as a captain of a pirate ship. In fact, that's actually quite a literal assumption, since his henchmen are a group of pirates and commanding the bathtub-modeled Penguin sub, which I believe is the first time the sub was established in the Batman mythos. And Burgess Meredith dons the feathered rule well, if not more so playing the bird of prey. Well, what do you expect from the guy who would later train the almost casted Batman with Rocky? No, seriously, look it up. Sylvester Stallone was supposed to play Batman in the fan film Batman Dead End.
You betray the law!
For his first film appearance and casting, the Joker is much more, well, jokey for sure, and Cesar Romero continues to show great colors in his most iconic role. Aside from the Lost Continent. But it's nothing like the Joker we see now in the movies, as a psychopathic anarchist, but much more attuned to the golden age of the comics. Bob Kane and Bill Finger were inspired to create the Joker from the silent film The Man Who Laughs, and the visuals are definitely there in the film, but with a much more brighter energy. Not to mention Caesar giving some great lines along with his giggling laugh. But the funniest villain in the movie is Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. He's always jumping around with God knows what kind of 60s caffeine-inducing cartoony performance, and probably has the best lines of villainous dialogue. The scene where he proposes his ultimate plan that takes up most of the film is both ingenious, hilarious, and one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
We shall spring them from the Joker's Jack-in-the-Box through that window, out over the sea and into the waiting arms of the Penguin's exploding octopus.
Not to mention, the Riddler is much in tune with his comic counterpart, providing some great puzzles for the Cape Crusaders to solve, and despite a hopefully darker take on the character in future films, Frank is fantastic as that green pajama game master.
She's right. If we don't manage to somehow swallow our super criminal pride, I'm afraid we're going to be...
However, the most perfect performance is Lee Merriweather as the seductive and sinister Catwoman. Now, given she's the third actress to play the part after Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt, Lee has always been my favorite Catwoman of the 60s series and one of the best in the movies in general. Julie was actually supposed to play the role in the film, but due to other commitments and a back injury, she was unable to appear, so the role went to Lee Merriweather instead, who looked a lot like Julie and overall looks fantastic in that sparkly skin-tight outfit and shows a great array of acting abilities, from her plotting and hissing role as Catwoman to her disguising and seducing role as the Russian reporter Miss Kitka. Or as she liked to put it,
Comrade Wayne, my name is Kitanya Irenia Tatanya Kerenska Alesov. I'm from the Moscow Bugle.
ever since her first comic book appearance, Catwoman has always been a flinging relationship for Batman, and this movie was one of the first adaptations to make their romance a much more mainstay in the Batman mythos for the fans.
What a perfectly lovely idea.
The other characters are small, but also have time to shine, especially those from the series like Alfred, Aunt Harriet, Commissioner Gordon, and Chief O'Hara, who while only really staying along in police headquarters as they do in the series, still do help Batman and Robin on a few of their missions on the Batphone. Both are a great duo, especially Chief O'Hara, who I wish was much more incorporated into the Batman franchise because he's one of my favorite characters in the entire mythos as a whole.
Precisely. And who behind it? Not a clue.
But with that said, there's also Commodore Schmidt-Lap, who is much more of a comic relief and MacGuffin to the story and only there for a few gags. But there's also a few good cameos here and there. Again, much like the show did with bits like the Window Guest. Hell, other heroes like the Green Hornet appeared a few times in the series in both cameos and crossovers. In the movie, they fit the cameos wherever they can, like of all people, George Kieser from Attack of the Giant Leeches. What an odd cameo. Well, aside from the cameos, the movie has some great iconic moments, and for those who never saw the show, the movie is a great introduction for newcomers, especially children who want to be introduced to Batman at a young age. A lot of the scenes are action-packed and have become mainstays in the pop culture when it comes to Batman, from vehicles, fight scenes, and comedic jokes. And in this movie, Batman has a lot more vehicles at his disposal. Aside from the Batmobile, this movie also marks the appearance of the Batcopter, the Batboat, and the Batcycle, and each of them look great on film, from the iconic Batmobile screeching out of Bronson's cave into the streets of Gotham, the Batcopter flying from Gotham Airport out to the skies, especially for a lot of the fangirls reaching out to Robin, the Batboat scheming through the choppy waves, and the Batcycle's comedic races towards its destinations. And Burt hated every one of them. While the Batmobile had him constantly bumping and jolting, causing major bruises on his body, the Batcycle had him in a small sidecar with Adam driving, and it looks ridiculous.
But Batman, sidecars are for bitches and hoes. Exactly.
There's an apparent story that Burt Ward's sidecar once disengaged and had no control and ended up crashing into a nearby chicken farm, and Burt coming out covered in barbed wire cuts and egg yolks. Must have been the work of the sinister egghead. That or the chicken ranch at Universal next door. Damn you, Carl Lively! The origins of the movie came when William Dozier wanted to make a big screen film to generate interest in his proposed Batman TV series by having the feature in theaters while the first season of the series was rolling before the cameras. The studio, 20th Century Fox, unfortunately refused because it would have to cover the entire cost of the movie, while it would also have to share the cost of the TV series, which was a much less risky proposition. So when the show became a massive hit during the first season, the movie was then greenlit, and production began right away. If you want a great insight on the movie and the show's behind-the-scenes secrets, I'd highly recommend both the TV movie Return to the Batcave, with Adam West, Burt Ward, Julie Newmar, and Frank Gorsha in a heartwarming and hilarious reunion with recreated flashbacks of the show's production, featuring the voice of Max, Kovu, and Haku, Jason Marsden, as a young Burt Ward.
At night, I turn into a sexual vampire, like a hungry shark in a world of unlimited halibut.
Oh, Jesus, can you imagine him saying that as Kovu?
At night, I turn into a sexual vampire, like a hungry shark in a world of unlimited halibut.
You're welcome, fangirls.
You know, as great as that sounds, I have to go.
As well as the DVD for the movie with some great bonus features and hilarious and colorful interactive menus. Yeah, you guys remember when home video menus were awesome? I'm looking at you, Blu-rays. The music in the show is presented at full force in the movie, provided by Nelson Riddle, who took elements from Neil Heft's work on the series and gave a much similar but bigger scale to the score. But would you believe that the theme song from the series that has become a staple of the character is nowhere in this movie in its full form? Yeah, what the hell? The theme shows up here and there in an instrumental form, but nothing for its lyrics. It might have been a rights issue or trying to distinguish itself from the show, but it is sorely missed in the movie. But the score makes up for it with some nice themes, including a weird French romance theme, and especially in the action scenes. And speaking of action scenes, and going back to iconic moments, the movie, like I said, is full of them, from Batman's hilarious fight with the exploding shark, and his Benny Hill-style attempts to dispose of a giant bomb that delivers one of the most iconic lines in the Dark Knight's history.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Absolutely classic. Not to mention the film offering a full live-action version of the iconic Bat Run as seen in the series intro, with Batman and Robin running through Gotham streets in hot pursuit of the United Underworld. This is one of my favorite scenes in the film, and one of the most iconic Batman moments, which was done with both Adam West and Burt Ward running in actual city streets, as well as the classic special effects technique of rear screen projection, which goes all the way back to the original King Kong. While this effect has been used countless times for driving scenes in movies, and even to this day advanced with technology for the likes of the new Star Wars movies, this film has the two actors placed on a treadmill running behind a projected background, plus allowing Burt to be a bit self-aware with this bit.
Holy marathon, I'm getting a ditch, Batman!
But it's the fun-filled fight scenes that give some great entertainment to Batman the movie, and all of them are fantastic. Bruce's single-handed battle with the villain's hideout gives Adam a great ability to act out in pure rage, and one of the few times we see Batman fight the bad guys without the use of his costume, making the fights much more emotional, brutal, and real. However, the final Super Smash brawl on the Penguin sub is a hoot and a holler to behold, and you can tell the entire cast and crew were having a pool of fun on the set. With the sub that looks like a cheap playground set, the painted skyline similar to the ending of Jaws the Revenge, and seeing the actors punch, sword fight, and jump in the water is such a blast from beginning to end. Which makes it kind of odd that the movie ends in kind of a bland manner. One of the issues I have with the film, unfortunately, is the whole side plot with the villains attempting to hold the members of the United Nations hostage by turning them into particle dust, ultimately making them another MacGuffin for the rest of the film, and it honestly comes out of nowhere. Maybe I'm missing a few details in the writing, but that's expected sometimes from Lorenzo Semple Jr., who I've talked about plenty of times on my show. There's also a lot of technobabble in the film that at times makes no sense and comes off more attuned to the original Star Trek series, which came out at the exact same time as Batman did. Hell, in a sort of crossover, the last film Adam West ever worked on was the second animated film Batman vs. Two-Face starring William Shatner as Harvey Dent. Which, I'll be honest, that in the first animated film, Return of the Caped Crusaders, I'd highly recommend. But the ending overall comes off as, to be honest, kind of odd. You'd think it would end with Batman and Robin turning in the villains and things going back to normal like they do in the show, right? Well, the movie does a 180 with the Commodore from before knocking down the dust particles of the United Nations members, holding the hope of the world in Batman and Robin's hands to try to fix it with technobabbles, water hoses, stock footage of world countries, and even an odd not really cameo from the President of the United States. Which sure, the day is saved, but even the two leads and the credits look like they didn't know how to end this with Batman and Robin just climbing down the building and a question-marked ending title. In a way, the movie represented Batman's first major foray into the Cold War issues at the time, as well as paying heavy attention to the Polaris missiles with the bellboy scene, which also has an odd but disturbing ending.
It was noble of that animal to hurl himself into the path of that final torpedo. He gave his life for ours.
The fuck, Batman? War surplus submarines with the Penguin sub, and taking a poke at the Pentagon with Batman's call on the submarine at the Gotham docks. And the inclusion of the unfavorable portrayal of Security Council members marked Batman's first attempt to poke fun at domestic and international politics. While I guess it was an interesting idea for the film, it's kind of unneeded and honestly really awkward to this day for some reason. But it doesn't really take away from the film, because along with it and the TV series, I still love it to this day. Overall, Batman the movie is a lot of fun from start to finish, and is a perfect adaptation that leaves a time capsule of the 1960s and the iconic TV series that put The Dark Knight in the mainstream. It's filled with color and laughs, comic-style cinematography, a jazzy score, fun action set pieces, and a cast of lovable characters and actors at the peak of their popularity, just making a movie and a crazy show that kept them and their audiences entertained. As the first feature-length Batman movie, we've definitely seen better, but we owe a lot to Adam West, Burt Ward, and the entire production for putting the Caped Crusader in the mainstream with this film, and I'm giving it a positive zapping of a 6.6 out of 10. It's a fun time for both kids and for the original fans old and new as well, and I definitely say check it out. So grab your Bat popcorn and Bat drink, sit in your local Bat seat, and enjoy the fun with the original dynamic duo. But of course I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Batman the movie? Is it a classic of 60s cinema? Or are you immune to it given you prefer the darker takes on the characters and find the show kind of cheesy and lame? Let me know in the comment section below. So until the next video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms signing off. Same bat time, same bat channel! Perfect! Oh, hey Timber! Haven't seen you in a while. Come here, I want to show you. I'm getting a reading on Universe DC 7889. Yeah, I know. I couldn't do the reviews I wanted to do this year due to the virus and the current surges in our systems. You think it's worth a try trying to reach him from here? Fuck it. It's worth a try. I'm a gambler. It won't take too long. Let's go. Come on, old Batsy. Don't let me down.